Hello, and welcome to another video from Ellensburg Amplifier Repair and Service here in Central Washington. Alright, it's a little bright up here. If my camera here for you guys is a little obnoxiously bright, just please let me know. I rely a lot on input from others to make things better for you guys. So please let me know if there's any issues. Today I have a Memphis Mojo amplifier in for repair. What this one is the, hold on, let me see if I can get some identification here for you guys. The 16 MC1.2500 is this amplifier, so it's the 1x2500 that has an issue. As you can see, I have the output card removed. I don't show any shorts per se on the output section. However, I do show a short on the auxiliary power supply, which is the reason why the card is out. My first initial thought was I had a shorted card, so I pulled the card. Really easy to do. You got a set of header pins here. Just use your good old friendly Hacko. Desolder the card, pull the card out. You're going to find a little bit of glue underneath. It does come apart relatively easy. To see if you can identify the short, it's either going to be in the output side of the amplifier or it's going to be before it gets to the output section. And this short just happens to be before the card. So I'm reading practically a dead short, 0.5 ohms. Now, there are two separate traces that head off. Of course, let me just see, do we have a common ground here? Probably not. This is auxiliary power, so it's gonna be separate. We just need to find out where these are headed here. So there's one. All right, so this side of, this is a capacitor, by the way, that's in parallel with a 15-volt Zener diode. And I'm just determining where this short is coming from. There we are. Okay, so I do have a short over here in the rectifier. It's a discrete rectifier setup here. Let me see what we have. Capacitance, good, nice. It'll show as a direct short at first until the capacitors charge. Let me check. This has had some work on it. Someone has cut this diode and lifted it at one point. Capacitance, good. So we're showing capacitance there. So that's one side of the rectifier, discrete rectifiers. And the other side, 22 ohms. God, that's awfully bright for that camera there. Sorry guys. 22 ohms. So I have 22 ohms across one of these diodes. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious. That's a pretty obvious short. Let me see, are these at all referenced to ground? No, because it's not going to be, because it's going to be the secondary side of this transformer, which is good. You don't really want that shorted. Let me just see, did they do any form of secondary? Oh, they have. Okay. 470 ohms. So at least they did bond that to the RCAs, and we should have about 1K. Yeah, about 1.3K. So your typical reading between the ground power here to your RCA shield on most amps is about 1K. Some techs will even put a jumper in there, and it's a great fuse for when you have a short. So don't put jumpers in. This resistor did get hot. Let's check its value. It's red, red, black, so 22022. ohms, 21 ohms, 21 ohms. Perfect. That's the 20 ohms that I'm reading across this. Yes, because we have a shorted diode, which you're going to probably find these diodes heading off to these two 22 ohm resistors, which we are. Nice. So hopefully I don't have, hold on, what's going, goes through this, goes through this. Oh, yeah, okay, for sure. Excellent. So yeah, so your 15 volt auxiliary circuit is shorted on this amp. I gotta see if I can fix that camera. I will work on that, guys. Sorry, every time I look up and at my computer here to see what OBS is up to, my head is really bright. So I just need to pull those out and see what they are and get them replaced, see if it solves the problem. I'm going to check the resistor here. I may replace that there. It doesn't look damaged, but you never know. Under load, it may change value. So we will pull this board out and go from there. And also, which is common on these, is when you pull the board out, check and make sure you don't have vibration damage across the legs of all these transistors. Extremely common on these. Almost kind of like the JL boards. You'll snap those right off. So I'll be right back with you guys when I get this board out. Alright guys, I have unscrewed this board and I've come to a point where I want to make aware that these sometimes amplifiers, you have to be real careful in what you do. If you're to, as you can see, I got all the screws out. This board's ready to come out, but these transistors that you see here, you have to physically bend them back just enough to clear this ledge of the heatsink. And over time, what happens is as these get repaired, burn up and repaired, and they come in and out of service, those legs will break just from being serviced. So when I move them, I will move them just maybe 1/8 of an inch, just barely move them up out of the way. Kind of like what you have to do with every amplifier to get the transistor off the heatsink, thermal paste, or whatever thermal management system it uses. But you got to be mindful that the legs of these transistors go through a lot of abuse. So the less you can move these, the better off you're going to be when it comes to the future repairability of the amplifier itself. And don't forget the thermistor there. I don't have replacements for those. And as you can see, I just clear the heatsink and then pull it back to free up the RCA jacks. And you're going to have your plugs here. Don't forget your plugs. You will rip the LEDs right out of here. And that, my friends, is the removal of a Memphis board the safe way, and no transistors fell off the board, which tells me nothing has been previously broke from vibration damage. And what we'll do is we will continue on with this repair. Stay tuned. All right, I am back with this board. So this has a shorted negative 15 volt auxiliary power supply, which is going to run pretty much all your op amps, pretty much all your ICs. So the first thing you got to determine is, well, where is this short at? Because a lot of amps, especially like on DSPs and crossovers, they have a lot of of op amps, like TL072s. And you'll never know which one is shorted unless you just start plucking and pulling. But there's a few tricks you can do. First, you identify the line. What is shorted, and at what point on this board does it start and what point does it stop? So this is my negative 15 volt auxiliary supply, which is directly shorted to the common. And let me just double check and make sure that my positive is still good. And yes, the positive rail is still good because you'll see the capacitor charge, but the negative rail is shorted, which is common. Don't get me wrong, it's typical. We need to find that negative 15 volt. So somewhere we are going to identify a short just making sure that we are. So I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to identify where I'm at. So we're here. And then also the trace comes off and goes around and comes up to, we'll check common, we'll check this guy right here, which there it is, 0.5 ohms. So there is the path. So there's the vias that this negative rail is taking. Now, what can we do to isolate this issue? You can't see my black Sharpie marker. You can just barely see it right there. Black Sharpie comes off nice with isopropyl alcohol, so, you know, mark up your board. Make life easy, don't make life hard. I'm going to identify which side this is on by doing something probably a lot of people won't do. I'm going to take this trace and I'm going to find me a nice appropriate spot here. So I know it goes up and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to a capacitor. So we have 7 points, at least on the bottom side of the board, that this goes on. And I'm going to go 7, so to cut it in half, 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take this path and I'm going to find me a spot here where I'm going to separate this. I'm going to open the path with a very narrow just a small, so small you can't even see it on camera. It's right there. That little line right there. That will open up the trace from where it's shorted. Hopefully should open it up to this point if I can follow my trace without getting lost here. Nice. Open. So between here and here is open now. And if you look, so I'm on my common here, 3.2 megs. So from here on this way, there's no short in that negative 15 rail auxiliary supply. That darn camera. I just need to back up. It doesn't like my bald head. So I know I'm not shorted from here over. So my short is from common back. So from where I opened the trace, we are still shorted. What's one of the most common things that happens on amplifiers when you have a preamp failure? Something happens over here at the RCA end of life. I do have 2 vias here, which is probably going to go to a couple op amps on the top side of this board. I am going to bet that one of these are bad based on the work that I see that has been done on the preamp section. I know I'm not shorted this way. I've got 1, 2 vias left, which is over here at the preamp controls, probably going to this IC and going to this IC. And there's the other 2 in question. I'm going to find my common, which I gotta find which one was my common. Hold on, give me 2 seconds, guys. Do I have something up top that will be easily? Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna have a common. Okay. So one of these is gonna be shorted. So I think those are TL072s, and again, I have this one and this one. So one of these guys is gonna be shorted to common, not to the other side of the rail, but to common. So it'd be nice if I could find an actual common on the top side of the board. Hold on, guys. I'm just trying to find a spot here that I can show easily my common, but 468. So on the these guys are using 470 ohm resistors to common, so we can do that. All right. There it is, 0.552. So .5 to common, which is strange because that means one of these things is going to be shorted to the common. I'm going to say, based on the work done, we need to pull those op amps out. I'll be right back with you guys once again. All right, guys, I'm back. Oh, that camera. Sorry. I promise I'll do something about that. I just have all my lights on. It's springtime, so I have all my plants growing up top here. I grow carnivorous plants. Don't get the wrong idea. So, after all this hunting down that I've done, I went and I pulled this capacitor so I can have an easy access to my common. Remember, this is an auxiliary power supply, so you have plus 15, minus 15, and in the middle you have common. These ICs don't use common. They use the plus side and they use the minus side. So I pulled this cap out to have access to my common so I can start checking back on my ICs. Well, guess what? This little guy right here, dead short. And the funny thing is I'm talking on Messenger right now with one of my good buddies. I think he's in Bulgaria, I think is where he's at. And I told him, I said, I'm going down the same rabbit hole that another tech has gone down, but this tech probably couldn't figure out because there's a lot of soldering done from the top, which I despise. Don't solder from the top, guys. Take the time, pull the board out. And I just told him, I was like, I'm going down the same path another person has already gone down. But they didn't catch that it was a shorted capacitor. Yeah, so don't underestimate electrolytic capacitors. Since I'm here, I'm going to pull both those out. There's no bulging, no leaking, no signs that this is failed in any way, but the meter says the magic number of 0.6. Shorted capacitor. So I just shake my head at this kind of stuff here. You know, guys, don't give up on your repairs. This person was absolutely in the right direction of trying to find this fault. But they seem to have ended somewhere right over here because they had changed all these resistors and stuff, which, you know, does show, you know, 400 ohms to common, but they didn't catch the capacitor. So I'm going to get those replaced. I'm going to bet money that this thing will fire right back up as soon as I get that capacitor replaced, because there is nothing else shorted on this. The amplifier actually started and ran, just had no output switch, which we know why. But otherwise, the amplifier itself ran just fine. This resistor would heat up really fast because obviously there was a dead short. So I have no doubts in my mind that this will fire right back up. So guys, I'm going to leave this video as it is there. I'm going to put this back together, get it of course tested and back on the road to the customer, and just goes to show something simple. Simple as a capacitor, no visible signs, anything of the sort can lead to an amplifier failure. So thanks guys for watching. Keep your fingers safe. Please keep them out of the rails. Rectifiers have voltage on them. Insulate them. They're exposed. Keep your fingers safe. Thanks guys. Catch you on the next one.